All right, let's get back to the slides. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we started by knowing you, and by introduction, my name is Gabriel Bundala. I'm the head of finance and operations at the Foundation for Civil Society. My fellow colleagues will introduce themselves once they come to the podium. And it's a pleasure for us to present to you what we call the Rosetta Stone. So our agenda today will be to have an overview as we've started. It's a very interactive session. We'll get into the following agenda sessions, and we'll learn about what it means to connect, what is the intersection between the private sector as well as the work that we do as CSOs. So I welcome Mr. Richard. A round of applause to take up on this session.
Thanks, Gabriel, for that one. My introduction will be very quick because, as you know, my name is Richard Hacking, and I am the managing partner for Kipimo Solutions. So we are specialists in impact measurement and management. We do impact verifications, we do capacity building, and we also build solutions and systems for impact measurement and management. So in this room, we would probably say monitoring, evaluation, and learning. But I also work with corporates, impact investors. So in that world, we call it IMM, Impact Measurement and Management. I've been in Tanzania for 10 years. So I'll be speaking English today, but yeah, we could do in Kiswahili another day if we had more time, I think. So I wanted to give you the situation as it is at the moment. I think we've heard a lot in the last day and a half. But just to really kind of frame where we are at the moment, and if I can go to one, yeah. So global donor priorities are evolving. We've heard this a lot. It's been in the news more than I think in the last 10 years, in the last year, than it has been in the last 10 years, I think. So particularly where we have our friend in the White House, who's made some big changes this year. USAID is obviously the one that gets the headlines, but also where I'm from in the UK and in Europe, there are donors who are looking at their, well, there are aid agencies who are looking at their budgets, and governments who are looking at their security budgets, for example, and realigning their priorities. We had in 2024, the US provided approximately $450 million in foreign assistance to Tanzania. It was more like 22 billion globally. So even a small percentage cut of that, or larger cuts that we're expecting, are going to have a huge impact on the work that we do, and a huge impact on development in a lot of parts of the world. Just to frame that as well, even USAID funding for education had declined in Tanzania. From 25 million in 2021 to 11 million, 11.5 million in 2024. So this is not just Donald Trump. This is a shifting priority to my mind. This is partly also success of Tanzania. So having gained low middle income status as per the World Bank in 2020, that necessarily moves the country in a different direction, and it's a fantastic direction through Vision 2025, the way that we have moved, and then going into Vision 2050. But we're going to need to look at it in the backdrop of less donor funding in whatever regard in these terms. There will still be our friends around the world who will be supporting, but we need to really think hard about how we are mobilizing funds here in Tanzania. Where am I pointing my clicker? Okay, pointing in the wrong direction. Yeah, so to frame that in terms of the situation as well, also the challenges that we're facing. So we're going to be talking about ESG today, so environment, social, governance. So just to kind of frame the environment conversation, $3.4 billion is the estimated annual financing gap for Tanzania to respond adequately to climate change. $3.4 billion, huge amount of money. Meanwhile, on the social side, 41.7%, this is an estimated, or this is a projected last year, absolute, those in Tanzania who are living in absolute poverty. So that's those living on less than $2.15 a day, and that's going to be, yeah, by 2020, that's by 2026, it's going to be that. So we still have huge challenges in terms of social development, in terms of environmental protection, in terms of climate change, adaptation, mitigation challenges. It's a huge challenge. And if we couple that with the situation as it is with donor funding, we are most certainly at a crossroads. And I think our colleagues were saying yesterday, that pathway to progress is going to have to be very well mapped out, because we are most certainly at a crossroads in Tanzania. So I just wanted to give you that as a backdrop. That's not to kind of alarm anyone necessarily, but hopefully to wake some people up on a Tuesday afternoon. And I'll pass back to Gabriel, who's going to give us a bit more information about what we're doing today. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. So we proceed. Ladies and gentlemen, one important event that happened yesterday was the signing of the Vodacom deal funding the civil society of 3.2 billion. And I think that makes sense in terms of the direction that we are moving through. And what we envision is a future where more private sector players are involved. Today we've heard as well with regards to local fundraising, localization of aid, and all the discussion around being more impactful and taking over the power from the local environment. And I think the following workshop session will give us an interactive, practical steps that we are going to take, all of us as civil society, in collaboration with the private sector and other players. And the concept of co-creation is what is being discussed nowadays, and it is pertinent in that angle to really have concrete steps that we can take. So another important aspect, ladies and gentlemen, is the aspect of financial resilience, which in the changing dynamics of the world today, that is a critical discussion point. And it matters at this point because the resilience of civil society is important for the sustainability as well as the continuance of what we do to the community. We've been discussing about the relevance, the legitimacy of the civil society, but a bit of a discussion around how do we remain resilient during these times. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored today to present to you the report on behalf of the Executive Director, Mr. Justice Rutenge of the Foundation for Civil Society. I present to you the Beyond the Bars report. A round of applause, please. Pathways to progress. Pathways to progress. All right. So I'll give a high-level view about the Beyond the Bars report. I wouldn't go into the details, but a high-level view of what it means from the private sector side. So this research was a determination to understand what would make the private sector work with the civil society. What are the barriers that are present that they see as barriers of not working with civil society? And today in the workshop, and since from the beginning we've learned that most of us are CSOs, we will also learn from you what would make you CSOs work with the private sector. So how aligned are the mandates from the private sector in terms of the social responsibilities that they have and the and ESG requirements that they need to fulfill? So the objective of the study delved into a couple of questions. So what nature of ESG, and CSR activities that are being carried out by the private sector? What are the extent of the involvement with the civil society? If if private entities get into doing community work and what we do, what makes them work with CSOs? Why would they use CSOs to work with the communities and not do it themselves? And what are the companies' and corporate views with regards to CSOs? And what are the modalities that would enable them to work effectively with CSOs? In particular, they are ready to fulfill the SDG 17, which requires partnerships for the sustainability development goals in order to achieve them. And most corporates are aware of the partnerships that are required. And the majority of them have already partnered with some umbrella companies, international organizations, as well as development partners. But few of the collaborations are short terms. A couple of them are meant to be for PR, that is for their publicity to enhance their goals. And that's what made us think about what's the meaning of sustainability itself while we were doing the research. And sustainability, by definition, is meeting the current goals and needs, as well as preserving the needs of the future. And the views that came out from the private sector in terms of what are their views in working with CSOs. One of the major outcomes was they need to work with bigger partners. And if it's not bigger partners, then it is, if there can be a consortium of the smaller CSOs that they can work with, that will enable them to not deal with small CSOs or NGOs, but rather a big organization, a big institution that they can be accountable for those. One important worry is the fact that funding that goes to CSO will not be used to implement the activities, will not be used to implement the project that they are interested, but rather they will be used to enhance their institutions, to build up their institutional. That was one of the critical findings. But importantly, the question of impact reporting. Private sector are concerned about monitoring and evaluation for CSOs, especially grassroots CSOs and small organizations. Their concern is around whether they will get the input that is necessary for them to build the sustainability reports that they are mandated to build. And a couple of modalities that I'll delve a little bit into in terms of what they expect for them to work effectively with CSOs. So visibility is one of the important aspects, visibility being the key factor that is relevant for them. And that ties back to the PR strategies. As we've learned and noticed from our research is that the sustainability department is mostly under the governance, under the PR department, whereby it's mostly about their visibility. Important aspect around proposals, and this is where the call for a consortium, or rather the call for co-creation, that civil society need to organize themselves into groups, into partnerships. So this calls for partnerships not just with the private sector and other players, but it calls for partnerships as civil society players ourselves in the areas that we work, that we do. Let's say it's health that we deal with, whether it's women and people with disabilities, private sector players expect us to partner together in the work that we do. If we are doing similar work, if we can partner, if we can co-create, if we can propose, co-create proposals that will enable to unlock significant funding that will enable the delivery of the projects and the activities that we do. Now, without much time, I will dive quickly into the recommendations, and then we'll run through into the aspect of the workshop that we really meant to be doing. So the lessons that are coming through in regards to what they recommend, the question that we've asked private sector players is, what would make them work with civil society organizations to deliver the work? I mean, importantly, as I mentioned earlier, is aggregating CSOs, integrating the activities of the CSOs with ESG. And the subject of today is, how do we, as CSOs, learn to communicate the language of the private sector? The private sector is interested to see how the activities that they do link back to their business model. And that's the essence of sustainability. Whether they give money through a consortium or individual CSOs, they expect to get an output from the funds that they deliver. Similar to how development partners will give funding and would expect outcomes and impact from that. So for the private sector, the language that they speak is the ESG language. And today, ladies and gentlemen, through this workshop that we've gone through, we will learn the language of the private sector and how the private sector can speak our language in terms of the needs, in terms of serving the needs of the communities, and how we can integrate back to their business models. Now, with that being said, I would welcome my partner from PwC, Mr. Willy Kimaro, to give a bit of a landscape of what it means and what language it is for the private sector in terms of ESG. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. As introduced, my name is Willy Kimaro. I'm a senior manager with PwC. For those who knows PwC, it's a professional firm responsible for audit, tax, and other advisory service. Myself, specialized in audits, which we call the assurance line of service. And today, very briefly, this is not it's not meant to be a classroom. It's not meant to be, what I'll do is just to give you a highlight in terms of what ESG is, what sustainability reporting means. So, as I highlighted earlier, so by profession, I'm a qualified accountant, but there has been a significant shift in the way financial statements and financial reports are being prepared and reported. And globally, there is a significant shift from historical financial reports or performance to a more sustainable and forward-looking sort of a financial reporting framework. So that is where ESG and sustainability reporting comes in. So high level, if you look at what is sustainability reporting, so it's simply reporting on what are sustainable risks and opportunities, looking at how the ESG, which is the environmental, social, and governance pillars, how are they incorporated in your key business processes and operations. And as I said earlier, it's a more of a forward-looking sort of a reporting. And now, so, and sustainability is something that is really serious, and it currently in our daily lives. So if you look at the shift of Lake Chad in the last 60 years, so it's evidence that sustainability is not a myth, it's not a theological sort of concept. it's a real phenomenon that we are living in right now. And the question is, how do you incorporate that in a business sort of environment? So that is where now, if you look at, in summary and in very few words, what does ESG intend to address? So as under the environmental pillar, so, and I understand here you have your CSOs, you have a private sectors, but it's a case-by-case sort of an organization assessment of the impact you're having in an environment. Things like waste management, water stress, biodiversity, raw material sourcing, all aspects relating to the environment. And for the CSOs, I think will be, how do you deal with, say, partners or association in matters relating to the environment? When it comes to social pillars, are you a good corporate sort of an individual in the society and where you're operating? Are you things like fair sort of employment opportunities, labor management, things relating to health and safety, all those are linked to the social pillar. And lastly, on the governance pillar, more on the governance of either being a private sector or a CSO, things like how is the board comprised? What is, if you look at the gender mix, are the executive being paid very high compared to others? All those will sit under your governance pillar. And initially, sorry, I think I've skipped a slide. Okay. Yeah. What does it mean when it comes to CSOs and practically here in Tanzania? So we are saying, and I've heard from Gerald's report, Gabriel, sorry, it was more on the accountability and transparency. So we're saying these reports will give accountability to stakeholders, transparency, strategic planning, and again, because it's a global concept, even UN has issued sustainable development goals. So it's a question of, say, CSOs, how do you link your internal sort of ESG strategies to globally known goals, example, the UN sustainable goals, and increasingly, donors and other organizations tend to work more with entities that have frameworks or plans to comply with sustainability reporting as well as ESG. And in my last sort of slide, there was one slide, and it was more on now in Tanzania, bringing this into practice here in Tanzania, because one will think maybe ESG is more of what we're hearing in a global landscape, but in Tanzania, currently, it has been adopted by the National Board of Accountants and Auditors, and it is just about time, even other sort of saying NGOs and other associations, organizations will be required to report on sustainability. So currently, starting this 2025, listed entities are required to report on ESG, but again, it's just a matter of time before all organizations that prepare, say, financial reports will be required to prepare ESG and sustainability reporting. So that is what I planned to cover today. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Willie Kimaro from PwC, who are experts in terms of sustainability reporting from the private sector side. And I want to echo what Willie has mentioned with regards to that. Local adoption of sustainability reporting has started, and it is not just to the private sector, even to us as CSOs. In our financial reporting, we will be required to report on sustainability. Lucky for us, we already have a lot of projects that are undergoing. We are already in the sustainability space. It is now ripe time to now speak the language of sustainability. This will now also help us as CSOs to speak the language of what the private sector is speaking when it comes to reporting. Now, I would like to introduce the next speaker for 5 minutes, who will be Mr. Jenard Lazaro, the country manager for ACCA Tanzania. And ACCA is also an international organization who deals in certifying, and he will explain more, and what it means in this initiative for speaking the same language between private sector and CSOs. A round of applause for Mr. Jenard, please.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. My name is Jenard Lazaro, and I'm the country manager for ACCA Tanzania. So ACCA stands for the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. And of course, when it comes to accounting bodies, this is the largest accounting bodies in the globe. And it's an honor to be here, to be part of this important conversation. As the world moves towards more complex and value-driven partnerships, we believe that finance professionals have a responsibility not just public sectors. ACCA plays two vital roles in this evolving ecosystem. We work in certification and talent development. Under this, we train and certify finance professionals across sectors, equipping them with the technical and ethical skills needed to lead in complex multi-stakeholder environment. As CSOs engage more with private sector, professional financial capacity becomes a strategic asset, not just an administrative function. We also do a lot of work in sustainability and policy influence. And beyond certification, ACCA operates a sustainability working group that actively engages with the policymakers and institutions to shape national sustainability conversations. One of our recent works in Africa, we do work with about 20 governments through the accountant generals to drive sustainability agenda. Through research, position papers, and dialogue, we support efforts to align regulatory frameworks, business practices, and development priorities. So, why this matters to civil society? As civil society expands in collaboration with the private sector, especially around ESG, transparency, and impact, it must do with confidence and capability. ACCA is here to support that journey, whether it's by helping CSOs understand and engage with ESG reporting standards, offering learning opportunities that build internal financial resilience, or providing access to a community of professionals committed to purpose and accountability. Our goal is simple: to empower civil society to speak the language of sustainability with clarity, professionalism, and credibility. So please allow me to conclude by saying this: sustainability is no longer a fringe issue. It is central to strategy, central to funding, and central to impact. So ACCA is proud to work alongside this initiative, offering knowledge, standards, and global best practice to help civil society not just survive, but lead. Thank you, and we look forward to building the next generation of finance professionals who serve with skill and lead with purpose. Again, I thank you all.
A round of applause again for Mr. Jenard. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from the private sector aspect of ESG reporting and also what it means, and the future of ESG reporting also coming to CSOs. We have to speak in the language of reporting as well, which will be helpful for us in our reporting to donors as well. And ACCA comes into these initiatives as a certifying partner, but also as a partner in terms of how we speak the language together. And as we've heard from Mr. Jenard, this journey requires collaboration and putting professionalism into the reporting, which would help us to unlock funding. So this discussion is not just about reporting, it's not just about sustainability as a reporting aspect, but it goes into the overall aspect of financial resilience and sustainability for us as civil society organizations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, pathways to progress. Pathways to progress. So let's embark now to the next phase. And I'll bring back to the podium Mr. Richard. So this is where we get to be interactive. And Mr. Richard will carry us through this process, the workshop where we will get into it, and Mr. Richard will give more details. A round of applause to welcome Mr. Richard.
Asante, Gabriel. I think I'm actually going to switch onto this one because I can see people falling asleep. Na labda nitaongea Kiswahili kidogo. Labda wataamka. Sijui?
Yes.
Sindio?
Exactly.
Wataamka. Watashangaa kidogo.
I think we need to make them stand to do the 4.
I think so, yeah. Karibu kusimama, jamani. Asanteni. I can see everyone after lunch is like, wote wanalala, Sawa. So how are we going to do? We do a stretch? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, where are we reaching with this particular program? We're going to reach high. So maybe we can reach high. Everybody reach high.
So we did a 4 at that time. Maybe we do a different number.
Yeah. Maybe we're going to reach. Oh, there was a 4 number. We're going to reach far. We can reach out far. And we're going to reach up again and pat ourselves on the back. Well done. Okay. Asanteni.
Thank you.
So let's go through this one a little bit quickly. So I think Gabriel glossed over a little bit this initiative, this ESG initiative that we're looking at with FCS. So the purpose of this is bringing together corporates and CSOs. I know that we have Shell in the room, we have Stanbic, we have Vodacom, we have others. So this idea is to get everyone speaking the same language. Has anyone heard of the Rosetta Stone? If anyone has, I'll be very impressed, so put your hand up. Hey, MC. Okay, so the Rosetta Stone was written in 196 BC. Okay, and it was a decree, and it was written in 3 languages. My picture has been replaced, but it's basically a tablet that had 3 languages on it. It was discovered in just on the 1800s. And what it allowed to do was, because people could speak Greek already, and they could understand Greek, they could then decipher and translate hieroglyphics. So there was these 3 languages, and it was all the same thing written in 3 languages, okay? So any one person speaking that one language couldn't make sense of the others. But with that stone, it allowed us to speak all 3 together and be able to translate all 3, okay? So if we take that as corporates in Tanzania, CSOs in Tanzania, and the government in Tanzania, you can see where I'm getting at. Sindio? It's this principle of all being able to speak the same language. And what we're talking about is being able to do this through ESG. So as Gabriel said, it's not just a reporting tool. This is a way to understand each other better and be able to work together, okay? ESG has already been very well elaborated and much better by my colleagues over here, so I won't go into that. But it contains within it global reporting initiative frameworks. So these are standard ways of thinking about sustainability, and they are very well practiced. We have very good partners who have capacity, both to advise and to certify and to help with all of that. And of course we have Vision 2050, which we talked about already, that we all want to move in a particular direction. It's a great opportunity. We've heard many times by the end of this week we want to go forward together. Fantastic. So what we want to do is get to a common language. Okay. So this is the corporate feedback. This is the worst end of the spectrum, let's say, that we heard from. I think Gabriel, you gave the nice stuff, maybe, and the more constructive stuff. But ability of CSOs to clearly communicate and showcase their previous achievements and write bankable proposals is limited. Okay, that's what we heard from the Beyond the Buzz report. Okay, not so nice. What we want to do today, because we have a large percentage of CSOs in the room, we want to hear the other side of the story. We can't communicate with each other unless we are listening to each other. So we've listened to the corporates. That's very nice. Good. So today, we want to listen to you guys in the room, okay? So what we're going to be doing is empathy mapping. It's a very basic starting point for design thinking. And I think Gabriel will tell us more about the process that we'll go through after today. Kipimo will be looking at design thinking and actually facilitating design thinking. But this is the main thing. We want to know what you're hearing, seeing, thinking, and feeling, and what you're saying and doing as well, to do with impact reporting, okay? If we had time to come and visit everybody in the room, I would come and sit there and see how you write your reports, and I would spend a day in your office to understand what you do. But we don't have all of that time to do that, so we do it this way. We also look at your pains and gains. So again, if I was sitting with you, I would maybe sit at lunch, and I would say, oh, okay, what are your challenges? Apart from your boss, tell me, what are your pains? We might also look at your gains. Oh, if we changed something in your life, what would create the biggest change? Okay? This type of thinking, by the way, should be used by CSOs a lot more. Listening to people that we work with. Not designing for, but designing with. So we'll go through that, and then we'll go to a bit of a group discussion. If we go to the next slide, I'll just show you what an empathy map looks like. You are in the middle. This is you, the client or the customer or the people that we're designing with. What we then do is look through what are we hearing, seeing, saying and doing, and thinking and feeling. Okay, and we map these typically. So because we have such a big room, I think we have at least 100 people, we're going to do this digitally. So if you're on your Mentimeters again, and I'll step out of the way so you can scan. We need you to go back to your Mentimeters. I think you can do it either by the code or by the QR code, either way. And then I think, so AV team, we can switch to the Mentimeter in maybe 20 seconds when people have it. Okay. So this is really interesting. I just want to go back to this one a second, because what we saw from this one was that we had a lot of people who were using a framework, or somewhat using a framework, but there was about 50% that were not necessarily standardized. So it gives us an opportunity to work with. There's definitely a need for us to use some standards. So if we go to the next form, I guess, or next question. And the next one. So we want to hear from you. In one sentence, tell us what you are hearing about the future of impact measurement requirements of CSOs. So in the last day, or in the last week, or the last month, or in this year, what have you been hearing about the future of impact measurement? I won't give any examples. My tendency right now is to give examples, and then it always ruins the thing. So. Aha, the future is uncertain. Okay, and you will see, will start to pop up. I'm going to come down here so I can read it.
That's a good starter.
Yeah,
Richard.
right? I think they were just copying what you said. Someone was listening at least, so that's good. Unpredictable, uncertain. Okay.
So ladies and gentlemen, just to unpack the question is, what are you hearing about the future of impact reporting as it concerns with our work as civil society organizations?
We've got some fascinating ones here. Doomed, someone said. I'm glad to see AI on there. You're welcome to come and see Kipimo Solutions, whoever put that one. Shamelessly plugging.
Someone said pathways to progress.
Nice. It's on brand. So I'm not sure if we can see more, if we can scroll down and see more responses.
To the technical team, if you can press space to group responses.
There we go. We're using AI already. Really interesting. So keep putting those in, because actually this is our starting point for a process that will start today, but then it will carry on going. So in this listening exercise, this is the first of many. We're going to have sessions where we meet with, we're actually wanting to put together a working group to help on this and face this design challenge. But really interesting that we have uncertainty. So we want to make particularly impact measurement more certain, and that's something that ESG can definitely do. We're seeing mandatory, definitely. I think the way we're seeing government reporting for corporates, certainly, and public sector, the likelihood is NGOs are going to be going that way as well. So yes, mandatory. I'm really happy to see collaboration in there as well, because that will be necessary.
Yeah, Richard, as we get more responses, as we are 1/3 of responses already, maybe if you can unpack the meaning of this whole process to the audience, which is part of the design thinking. Can you unpack the meaning of design thinking in terms of this whole process that we are going through?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the common way, and I must have worked with more than 50 NGOs, CSOs, CBOs, faith-based organizations in Tanzania in the last 10 years. And I'm very glad to see that there's been a shift from doing programming at people to doing programming with people. So rather than designing in an office somewhere, doing something for people with the best intentions, but not designing with them. So design thinking is a way that we do that. We typically do it in technology, when we're building apps or we're building new products. So in this case, we're looking at impact reporting and a common impact reporting way of understanding, a common language, let's say, as a product. The way we do that is we start to understand your experience of that thing, and then we can start to work together to prototype, to start to look at frameworks that might work for you, because otherwise it will be me and Gabriel sitting in an office congratulating ourselves about our new framework and our new guideline that we've developed, and it won't actually be used by anyone. So it's also part of it is trying to get ownership for yourselves in the room, and also, I mean, there's 8,000 registered NGOs in Tanzania, so we have a lot of people to speak to, so you're representing a lot.
Maybe from the technical team, if you can click on one of the main options and let's see the results. Start with the uncertainty.
Okay, so this is great because this is really rich data that we can use. So even after today, we'll go back to this and review it and see what people are saying. Okay, so that's just the first part of all of this. So this is kind of what you're hearing, what's being said. I would also say for our colleagues here, what are you reading as well? What are you reading about impact measurement? Okay. So I think if we can go to the next question. So for those of you who are still writing, we just wanted a sentence. It's not an exam. Please don't write me an essay. I just need a sentence. Okay? So the next one, in one sentence. Tell us what changes you are seeing in the world of CSO impact measurement. So for those of us, Weshimiwa, here at the front, Shikamoni, I think you will have seen a lot of changes in how impact reporting is done, and impact measurement is done. So what have been the latest things that you're seeing now? So what changes are we seeing? And again, one sentence, short sentence, just to give us an idea of what you're seeing. I need to get my steps in for the day.
Yeah. Let's put in some data. Pressure from Mama Samia, interesting one. Just in one sentence, ladies and gentlemen, we are 100 of us from the way it looks, so we are 5% to go. So let's input the data so that we can run with the time. So the question is, in one sentence, tell us what changes you are seeing in the world of CSO impact reporting measurement.
So there's a tendency towards reporting, actually, and that's interesting. So this could also encompass things like data collection, data analysis. Yeah. I think we'll leave it a second, and then we can do the space bar, because I wanted to see if we can get a variety of responses first. So.
Your technical team, if you can group the responses together by clicking a space. We're getting to 38 now, getting to 40%.
Okay, so there's some interesting ones there as well. And again, we'll unpack these in more detail. So if there's something that you have that is different to this, please put it. Okay? So please don't just be influenced by this one. As far as possible, put what you think, what you see. It's something that we don't do enough, where I know I'm a bit strange, I'm a bit unusual, and I'm happy about that. So let's not all just follow everyone else. Let's do something different. But we can see some important stuff in here. So yeah, there's a future outlook, which is great. I'm glad that some people are positive. I think maybe we should organize a hug for the person that said doomed later. We'll help them out. But yeah, improved reporting, willingness for change, and again, this use of artificial intelligence, which is really interesting. So we extend that use of technology in what we do.
Interesting theme coming out from the use of artificial intelligence. Richard, I think this is also an interesting aspect and timing.
I'm also happy to see there's a willingness for change as well. So that's sometimes just the half of it. We would like to hear your opinions in a moment about this initiative, because actually getting an initiative off the road, on the road, sorry, for those of us who have run conferences even, or social movements, or various initiatives, it's difficult, that initial step, to get people excited about change, okay? So it's great that we have people who are willing to change in the room. We'd like to speak to you more and probably have you on a working group for this.
Next technical team, let's go to the next Mentimeter.
Okay, so this one is in one sentence, how do you feel about the requirements? So this is you personally. How do you feel about some of the things that we've talked about here? So it's okay to say scared or trepidatious or whatever it might be. But we really want to know how you feel about it. Is this all far too complicated, and I don't know, what does the corporate sector have to do with me? You know, I'm working with youth in Tanga, or I'm working with women in Ambayo. Why do these guys in the sharp suits mean anything to me? So. Glad that we've got some empowered in there. That's good, because that's part of this process. We do want to make sure that people are feeling engaged and empowered.
Yeah, Richard, that's a positive thinking from the audience. If people are already feeling empowered, then it's much easier to empower them more with AI tools and with the knowledge and skills on how we can enhance the communication with the private sector. Technical team, I think it's time to group the responses. Let's continue with the answers. So the next few ones are going to be easier ones, because we're going to be clicking yes or no answers.
We got one more to go, and then one more to go, and then we're on to it. Yeah, so keep going with those ones. But really great to see. I mean, thank you for those in the room who said worried, or one of those things. That's fine, because that's something that we would work on. Good, very good. About time. That's great. So very timely. Challenged is an interesting one. I always like to talk about, instead of a shida, it would be a changamoto, right? So it's a challenge you can overcome. A shida just sits there, and it's just always a problem. But a challenge, that's fine. We like challenges. If we're working in the CSO sector and we're doing our jobs well, we should like a challenge. We do challenging work. And also empowered as well. So that's great. That's a good starting point. We want people to feel empowered. And increasingly, as we do these engagement exercises, we want you to feel empowered to be able to do this. It might be a challenge, but we can do it. Okay, we'll move on to the next one, I think. Or do you want to spend a few more seconds on that? I think we're getting some responses, so that's good. Yeah, I think we can move on to the next one. We don't want to cram the next session, because I think we're already...
Technical team, let's move to the next Mentimeter.
Okay, so this is the last one of this kind of question, where we're looking for a sentence. Again, short sentence is fine, or even one word if you prefer. Tell us what you are doing to adapt to impact reporting requirements. So some of you might have felt this externally. Some of you might be running a CSO and you're promoting this internally and trying to get ahead. But yeah, how are you? Oh, I didn't know you could do smiley faces. There we go. So this is great for our colleagues at ACCA, because there's people who are learning and wanting to learn. So that's great.
So there's a lot of learning need, which points to the need for a collaborative space where these initiatives that we're working on will create the collaboration we need to learn further. Technical team, can you put in the space? Let's continue with the responses.
So I'd be really interested to know as well if you're what you're learning about. You can get specific with it. So are you learning about more about the SDGs or doing a course online? Do you know about GRI and ESG reporting frameworks? Feel free to put those in and get specific about it. That helps us, again, to understand where you guys are at. So. Okay, so we'll give it 30 seconds more, because this is a really important one, because this is the kind of active. So what activity is going on already that we can already work from? So when I'm consulting with organizations, particularly CSOs, we talk about ABCD. So asset-based community development, if anyone's familiar with that. So if this is our Jami, what assets do we already have? Let's start from what we already have instead of what we don't have. Really important. There's a lot of skill, there's a lot of capability, there's a lot of knowledge. There's even a lot of enthusiasm in the room for this. So that's what we're trying to find.
Yeah, technical team, if you can press space again to categorize the new responses that have come in. Space again. Richard, I think this is from all the questions that we started, this is the one that is so much biased towards learning.
Yeah, a lot of learning.
It's a good feedback.
That's great.
And even those with AI tools, in the details, they've spoken of using AI tool to learn and as a...
It's fantastic. And I'd be really interested to unpack these uncategorized, so that's great. That means that that's the strange people, the ones that AI can't understand yet. So that's good. I like those responses.
Maybe we click on those responses, technical team, for us to, if you can click on the new responses and categorized.
That one, yeah. Okay, so we got some learning in there. Oh, we got, some learning. The interesting use of accounting packages, policies to ensure proper reporting. Great. Fantastic.
Thinking contextually, I think is very interesting to me.
Yeah, fantastic. So technical team, I think we want to wrap up on this session. So we have done those top parts of the empathy map. There are 3 more questions, I think, that I want to ask you. So, we mentioned pains and gains. So if you can spare us your time for a little bit longer. Technical team, we can go to the next question, I think. So, this is your pains. And we're going to just do 3 words on this one. So very, very short. It doesn't give you a huge amount, but in 3 words, what is the biggest obstacle your organization faces when it comes to impact reporting? And remember, I was saying it's the entire process. So you have to go and engage, collect data, analyze data, report it in a particular way. There's a whole process around impact reporting. There are local stakeholders. There might be international stakeholders. There are different local stakeholders. So what do we see as challenges? Ooh, yeah, there we go. Oh, we set it for word cloud. Okay, there you go. So again, it can be the first thing that comes to your mind. And it's typically the thing that is the biggest pain. So when you're in the office now, when CSO week finishes and you go in on Monday and you're asked to do impact reporting, what's the biggest struggle?
Interesting to see storytelling as one of the key obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. Even, so there's someone put meeting or meet deadline. That's great. So what that says to me is that your system isn't maybe efficient, or that, it takes a lot of time to do, right? It takes a lot of time and resource and energy to do these reports. So how can we make those easier? I think we'll keep going on that one because it's making a nice pattern. Eh? We've got costs and quality in there. Gabriel, what are you seeing on that one?
I'm seeing MEL skilled personnel is an obstacle, which is quite interesting to impact reporting. Costly. I guess a key need to reduce the cost of reporting and compiling the data required.
Non-linear results is a really interesting one. I like that. That's a systems thinker we got in there. That's great.
I think we've got some very good results. We can move
fantastic.
Forward.
I think for the next one, we can do the, I think we go to the gains. So normally, it's easier to talk about obstacles in any language. Maybe it's more difficult to talk about what you might like to see in one language or the other. So let's just try it. Let's see, for the next one, we'll do in Kiswahili responses.
Yep. We move to the next.
Or Swedish, if you prefer.
I would prefer Swedish.
Yeah. Okay, so tech team, thank you, folks. That's really, that's really interesting stuff. And I think we've got, we keep getting about 30 responses on there, so that's good.
So tech team, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. So let's do this one in Kiswahili. So again.
So I guess, guys, we're out of time. We need to really wrap it up.
Sure. So let's do this one, and then we'll move on to yours.
Yeah. How many more questions left, Richard?
That's it. Is this?
Yeah. So guys, let's wrap it up.
That's okay. If you keep going with the responses, that would be great. Okay, folks. Usiogopa. Karibuni. We only have, we have up to 20 now.
So Richard, I'm not sure if you would get this one. Kuna moja is written kasheshe kubwa.
Uh-huh.
Can you unpack that?
This idea. A lot of people are choosing English. Huh? It's interesting.
And I think the audience is also getting a glimpse of what others are thinking in terms of the whole impact reporting aspect and the need to speak to the language of ESG, which will really help in terms of the partnerships amongst ourselves as civil society organizations. The technical team, let's move quick to the next one. I think we've had enough.
Okay, so we'll just pause there for a second. So that was our empathy mapping. We're trying to find a way to put that one back on the screen, but it's a bit difficult to do. So we've taken that feedback. That's great. What we're wanting to know then, as I think hopefully is our final, maybe it's our final 3 questions. I'm not sure. It should be our final question. We can probably skip to it. We're wanting to know, because a lot of the time we talked about the Rosetta Stone as this new thing, but as it also displays, the Rosetta Stone was a very old thing, actually. So we don't want to keep recreating things, keep recreating frameworks. Okay? There's probably those of you in the room who have seen attempts like this to find common languages around impact reporting, maybe through SDGs. I know I've worked with faith-based organizations and SDGs before, trying to get common languages. So if technical team, if we can go through to the, hopefully should be last question.
Yeah, next one, technical team.
Yeah. What is critical to consider for this ESG initiative to be successful? So, on this one, I want you to be specific. If you've heard of something before that tried and failed, then tell us about it. If there is something that we need to really bear in mind, otherwise it definitely won't be successful. So if we don't engage youth, it's not going to be successful. If whatever it might be. So help us. As we start on this initiative, help us with your knowledge. What can we do to make it more successful?
Richard, one interesting response is on the guidance.
Guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think we can, yeah, if we get all these responses in, but yeah, there's a lot in here. So relevant tools, effective networking, relevant tools, flexibility, clear alignment with strategy. Good, okay. I'm glad to see, I think there was one on there that was, yeah, community ownership. Yeah, really important. So we're going to give that 30 seconds, so please, if you have any other additional comments, then please put them in there. And actually, even as Gabriel is closing up, please keep putting information into this one because it's really important. It helps us on our journey. So we'll close up Mentimeter there. Oh, sorry, we won't close Mentimeter. Tech team, if we can shift back to the slides. Mentimeter is still open, so keep putting your responses as I go up and pass back to Gabriel.
Pathways to progress. Let's do our pathways to progress action. Pathways to progress. All right, I'm glad the audience is still active. All right, so what are next steps for this is we are creating a working group that will directly move us to the next action steps. And we've talked a lot about collaboration, about co-creation and everything. And this whole process that we've gone through is meant to be an actionable steps forward. So if you can scan the QR code that will need you to input some information, and then we'll create a working group that will pilot our next steps in terms of these initiatives. We've heard from the private sector, we've heard from the experts in ESG reporting who can communicate in the language of the private sector. And ladies and gentlemen, as we continually speak about localization and funding and the landscape generally for us as civil society organization, we want to be at the forefront in terms of unlocking new partnerships for our financial resilience and to deliver the impact that we need. So if you can scan and join the working group, and we will move through in terms of the steps that we'll go through. The design thinking process that we've gone through is what we will go through deeply, but importantly, the feedback that we've received from you, the learning, the guidance needed to achieve the impact reporting requirements that is needed for both the donors and development partners, but in this critical partnership that we want to engage with the private sector. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure and an honor. And let's give us a round of applause, everyone, for the great audience and the great collaboration. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, I would like to thank all the partners who have contributed to this. And all of us are part of these initiatives, PwC, ACCA, FCS, and Kipimo Solutions. And as we join the working group, we will be part of this initiative to drive the transformation towards speaking the same language as the private sector. Thank you, Richard, for the great workshop. Thank you, Mr. Jenard, and also a big thanks to PwC. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the awesome attention and for your precious time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause to the FCS team for this great session. So now we'll be moving, as they're getting ready to take their seats, we will be moving to the next session organized by LSF, Legal Human Center, and Care International. Can I invite Deo Bire to take over? As Deo is approaching the podium, naomba tumpigie makofi. The floor is yours.
Hello, habari. Nilivyokuwa nimekaa na jiandaa na hii session hapo, nikamuuliza Cindy Kiswahili cha Pathways to Progress. Ameniandikia majibu